Colorado's Attorney General is getting involved in the dispute over blacked out Nuggets and Avs games. The AG's office is investigating whether cable and satellite TV customers are getting ripped off, paying for a channel they can't watch. It's not going to put the Nuggets and Avalanche games back on your television any faster, but it does have the potential to put money back in your pocket. The Office of Democratic Attorney General Phil Weiser sent letters to Comcast and DirecTV asking why they're still charging you extra fees for regional sports when Altitude, the regional sports channel with two teams playing right now, is blacked out due to the contract dispute. The letters say Comcast and DirecTV may have engaged in a deceptive trade practice and warns them of penalties up to $20,000 per customer. And the letters suggest a wider investigation, saying the AG's office has opened an investigation of other fees and charges that have the potential to confuse and mislead consumers. The AG's office wants answers out of Comcast and DirecTV by November 7th. Comcast told me that it's cooperating. Comcast is giving customers a partial credit for the regional sports fee. We told you that previously. But Comcast claims that the other regional sports programming it offers still allows them to charge the rest of the fee. Now, Altitude is blacked out on a third provider as well, Dish. But the AG's office told me that they didn't send a letter to Dish because Dish does not charge a regional sports fee. Schools clearly understand that all of the reading, writing, and arithmetic in the world will not matter if students are not safe. Safe from hurting themselves or each other, and safe from intruders. School safety has been off-season homework of sorts for state legislators this year, and they got together today to finalize agreement on the changes they're going to push for in the next year's session. One is what they're calling Train the Trainer. It's behavioral health training for educators. They're also going to look at updating Safe to Tell. It's been 2 decades since the state created its anonymous reporting system. And they also picked a third idea that we'll explore more in a moment, the idea of mental health days for students. This same group of legislators could not agree on additional suicide prevention resources for students. There's never really a serious discussion on guns either. Talking about arming people in school or new restrictions on guns, non-starters. And one topic that came up again and again but is not going to change is school safety drills. Each school district in Colorado is free to practice active shooter drills however they please. Our Marshall Zellinger was inside an Adams 12 high school as students went through a lockout drill that could be a statewide model.
Okay, here you go.
Attention students and staff.
We're watching the door inside this Horizon High School classroom because this lockdown drill has 3 steps: locks, lights, out of sight.
One of the things we like to talk about isn't simply hiding, it's remaining out of sight. And I think that distinction is important. Hiding is a passive thing. Remaining out of sight is active.
John Michael Keys runs the I Love You Guys Foundation, started after his daughter Emily was killed inside Platte Canyon High School in 2006. The I Love You Guys Foundation's lockdown protocol was created with the help of Adams 12 executive Pat Hamilton.
We decided that there needed to be a better way to do our drills in schools. We would find kids not sitting in the right spot, they weren't doing the right things, they would be talking, they would be joking around.
We take the lockdown drills seriously so that if it ever did happen, we would be serious at those as well.
Before the lockdown drill starts, students are shown a video.
An attacker has hardly ever gotten through a locked classroom door. Hardly ever.
They're told why they're being taught to stay in a locked classroom.
Even in high school, some of the kids are like, well, why are we doing this? It's like, well, you need to stay out of sight of whoever is causing this lockdown.
Security alert.
When the lockdown happens, the students go to a part of the classroom that cannot be seen from the doorway. If someone is on the other side of the locked door and looks in, they should see what they think is an empty classroom.
Thornton Police Department. Wow, good morning, everybody. Good job hiding.
You can't even see the students when School Resource Officer Matt Dingus unlocks the door and gives that class the okay. It's not quite the way freshman Layla Castillo practiced these types of drills before she got into high school.
At my old school, we never really had every single light off, but it was like really dark here, so I wasn't expecting that.
What you'll see in lower grades is perhaps a kindergarten teacher will have a light or a phone light on reading quietly to the students.
Good job, guys, lining up against the wall. It's nice and dark. Couldn't hear you, so you passed.
What you just watched is drilled in tens of thousands of school districts nationwide. But not every school district in Colorado uses that protocol. The School Safety Committee today could have come up with a recommendation that school districts use this protocol statewide. They didn't. yet. Even if they do, Kyle, school districts have local control, and school boards can make whatever decision they want, regardless of what state lawmakers say.
And the same goes for like curriculum in schools. Why not attempt some kind of a statewide standard, even if it was like an opt-in?
It's something that's going to be part of a work group next year, so we could be 2 years away from this. Something that Senator Rhonda Fields, she doesn't like exercises that simulate active shooters, but what she said is if you have a substitute teacher in multiple districts, at any given time, they may not know that protocol, so there may be a need for a statewide protocol.
Hadn't thought about it like that. All right, thank you, Marshall. You ever have one of those days when you just can't? I mean, when I was growing up and in school, my parents would call them mental health days. That's what we called them in our house. It was a day to stay home and get right up here, just like you would with your body with a sick day. So state legislators are looking at making mental health days a reality for students across Colorado. Schools would be required to treat a mental health day as an excused absence. Democratic State Senator Rhonda Fields of Aurora, who Marshall just mentioned, says it's been 56 years since laws regulating school absences have been updated. She says now it's time.
The statute has not been updated since 1963. And during that time, mental illness or behavioral health was not considered even for health insurance coverage. So it's time that we remove the stigma that's associated with kids who might have an issue dealing with some type of sadness.
One frequent sight at these hearings has been John Castillo. He is the father of Kendrick Castillo, the STEM School Highlands Ranch student who was killed by a shooter as he protected his classmates. John Castillo wants stricter laws to hold parents accountable if they fail to lock up their guns.
I hope that we can have those discussions and some of the simple things like where those guns are locked up, maybe some documentation that if you or your family owns a gun and your kid happens to get it, that you become personally liable as a parent for making that gun available to somebody. I think those harsh penalties are going to make people more responsible.
Obviously, any kind of new gun control in Colorado or gun safety legislation like that might be is going to cause controversy. Colorado, of course, has a new gun control law that's going into effect in January. It's a red flag law to confiscate guns temporarily from people deemed by a judge to be a danger. However, we already have a law that takes guns away from domestic abusers. Our Steve Sager tells us how the Denver District Attorney's Office gets creative to get those guns. The investigator involved asked to remain anonymous for the purpose of his job. So Steve talked to his boss.
Each day we might get somewhere between 5 and 10 new domestic violence cases that are filed.
Maggie Conboy oversees how those cases are prosecuted as Chief Deputy DA in the Denver DA's office. She's also in charge of the investigator assigned to make sure anyone arrested and charged with domestic violence gives up their guns.
And in 2013, our General Assembly enacted a law which provides that if once a person has been arrested for domestic violence, then he or she has 24 hours to relinquish.
The problem, she says, is that since the accused have a constitutional right to remain silent, they often don't say that they have weapons at home to give up, where this investigator comes in.
He will go and he will look at all of the witness statements. He listens to the 911 call.
He also checks social media.
These guys love to post pictures of themselves holding their weapons.
Then the DA's office can go to a judge and create a reason for officers to safely get the weapons.
A violation of a restraining order, right? Because the offender is court ordered to relinquish.
And sometimes they can get the weapons in other ways. Conboy says in his first month and a half, the investigator was able to get these 19 guns from one domestic violence suspect. The victim got most of them out of the house when the man was in custody.
He's gotten a call from a couple of mothers that have said, I was in the courtroom and I saw that my son has been ordered to relinquish. Let me help you. And literally he's had, in 2 different occasions, mothers have brought down guns and relinquished.
So in the case of those 19 firearms, the DA's office actually got a thank you note from the suspect's father who said he was worried about his son's safety. Again, this is different from the red flag law. In fact, that law will be handled by a different office in Denver city government, the city attorney's office. But Conboy says they are learning some best practices from this investigator that will help with red flag. Kyle.
Concern with red flag is where the guns would be stored because it's a temporary thing. When these guns get taken from domestic abusers, where do the guns end up?
So they can either go to the Denver Police Department. If they're relinquished, you can give them to the cops. They'll hold on to them for you. You can give them to a licensed firearm dealer, or you can give them to a family member. But if you are going to give them to a family member, you have to show that you've done a background check on that family member to make sure that they can hold the gun.
Another law in Colorado. I remember that one. All right. Thank you, Steve. All right, so no surprise in Washington today. Colorado's Democrats support opening an impeachment investigation into President Donald Trump. They all voted for it. Colorado's Republicans voted against it this morning. Colorado's congressional delegation was also similarly split on a bill that would protect 400,000 acres of public lands in Colorado. The Democrats in our delegation supported the CORE Act. Republicans voted against it. It did pass the House. It would protect over 250,000 acres of wilderness in Colorado, including the San Juan Mountains. The controversial part of this bill bans future oil and gas development on about 200,000 acres on the western slope. That bill now heads to the U.S. Senate. It has been a while since I got ID'd, but the next time I do, I am going to pull out Colorado's digital ID, and you can too. And who on earth would let their kid dress up on Halloween as Denver's most disliked news anchor? That's next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is 100% that witch, and 100% Colorado as well. Paddleboarding witches. Thanks to our viewer Crystal, who sent us these photos from Cherry Creek Reservoir. You can tell by the setting there that this photo is actually from a couple of days ago before the storms moved in. But come on now. Witches on the water in Colorado? That's perfect for today. Send us your most Colorado photos. Email next@9news.com or tweet them to us with the hashtag HeyNext. So many creative Halloween costumes sent our way this year, I cannot pick a favorite. I'm not allowed to pick a favorite. No, forget that. Just show my favorite one. A 9-year-old Evan Easton from Denver. My man, look at you. This is fantastic work. You got the jacket going, the 9 News ID badge, the microphone, even nailed the hair. I am honored, Evan. I hope that you get a ton of candy tonight. Do not go to any politicians' houses, though. That could be awkward, and trust me, you will only be disappointed with what you get out of them anyway.
We are clawing our way out of the deep freeze. We managed 40s with sunshine today after a record low this morning. Another record, 7 this morning at DIA. But our temperature, although below average, is at least trending in the right direction. And we've got one more cool day as an advancing storm system keeps temperatures about 20 degrees below average again. There goes yesterday's weather maker. Here comes the Friday storm, but this one's pretty wimpy compared to what you've been through. So a few clouds coming in tonight. That will keep the overnight minimums up a bit. A few snow showers in the northern mountains, but not enough for winter weather or travel advisories to be posted. Temperatures tomorrow will be cool, but it gets better. Partly cloudy and 18 tonight with light winds. A chilly start to your day tomorrow, high under 40. We should be closer to 60. We get there eventually. 48 Saturday. Daylight saving time on Sunday comes to an end, so we set those clocks back an hour, and then we see that warming trend get us close to 60 by the middle of next week. So not too scary for those trick-or-treaters tonight. Chilly but dry with temperatures currently in the mid-30s, dropping just below freezing, Kyle, by 9 o'clock.
Kathy, thank you. Colorado's announcement of digital driver's licenses this week seems to be causing some confusion. It's a digital ID in the new My Colorado app. Our Sonia Gutierrez got some answers to your questions.
Watching this tutorial, you'd think, oh, that's easy. Nope. Not for the more than 500 people who commented on our Facebook post. Some brought up really good questions, so we took them to the State IT Executive Director, Dr. Teresa Zazurek.
We had a lot of questions about security and identity theft. How does the state make sure that my identity is not stolen?
We have many security capabilities built in. The information on the app is protected through multi-factor authentication. For example, you would have an account, and that account has a password. And we do other things to ensure that it's the real thing.
How will a police officer standing by your window verify the authenticity of the document?
They won't. That is why, at this point in time, there is an exemption, and state law enforcement personnel do not have to use the Colorado Digital ID.
But will it work at the airport?
Not now. The My Colorado mobile app and the Colorado Digital ID is to be used in Colorado.
So you would still need to carry your physical ID?
Yes, people are encouraged to please carry your physical ID.
So what's the point?
Well, it's an evolution. We're going where people are and putting in the palm of their hands the ability to prove their identity. People are demanding these kind of services because they're going mobile. And so it's easy. You don't have to worry about losing then a separate physical driver's license, and it's all in one place.
Restaurants and bars get to decide for themselves if they'll accept that digital ID. You also asked us about fakes, people putting in bad information to generate an ID. The state says it will cross-reference the info that you provide with what's already on file with the DMV. You will not be asked for any more information than that. Digital ID rolls out next year. A history lesson on Halloween about a very real and scary moment in Denver history.
It would be one of the worst riots that would occur during this period of time.
Nearly 140 years ago on this day, Denver's first race riot. That's next. It was a tense time politically. Race relations were in an ugly place in America. It was a recipe for Denver's first race riot. Colorado's new state historian, Dr. William Way, shares the story of the brutal attack that happened on this day in 1880.
At that time, Chinatown was essentially a working class community. And what we have there today is Lodo, the lower downtown district. The riot has to also be understood in a political context, of course referring to the presidential election of 1880 between James Garfield and Winfield Hancock. Hancock accused Garfield of the importation of cheap Chinese labor. At 2 p.m. in the afternoon, some drunken folks entered a saloon on Wazee Street. One of the drunken individuals struck one of the Chinese, initiating the riot. It attracted 3,000 to 5,000 Denverites to descend upon Chinatown, the Chinese community. In the course of it, they of course hurt a lot of folks and killed one individual. It's surprising that only one person was killed, but I have to say, it wasn't from want of trying. Well, in this particular instance, I think hindsight really is foresight, to view immigration as objectively as possible, rather than to be influenced by a lot of the political rhetoric that surrounds them.
Denver was not alone. There were more than 200 similar anti-Chinese incidents across the American West at that time. The U.S. government soon passed the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882, banning the immigration of Chinese laborers. That was a stain on American history that was not fully addressed until 1965 and not apologized for by Congress until 2011. We will return in a moment with your feedback and my Halloween costume surprise for you next.
What do you think of the Halloween costume? Get it? I'm supposed to be Steve Steger. Anyway, we finished with your feedback. I'm sorry, but it's painful to watch Kyle Clark have to turn off 9 News anytime he's on. Why is he worthy of his own segment? I don't know. They'd have to put that Steve Steger guy in there. See you next time.